Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Football Week 2 of the 2023 season, and we are in for a treat, a doubleheader, Saints versus Panthers and Browns versus Steelers. However, those games, I'll just say it, they turned out to be pretty boring. I was kind of struggling to stay awake during the Saints-Panthers game, a little bit during the Browns-Steelers game. Ultimately, what I can say about these two games is that the defenses for both teams are good. The offenses are still a work in progress. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr completed 21 of 36 passes for 228 yards and an interception. Carr struggled to get anything going until the second half when he dialed up a few long shots to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Both drives ultimately ended with Tony Jones in the end zone. Despite the win, frustrating night for the New Orleans offense. Carr appeared to be on a different page than his receivers on multiple occasions and threw a bad interception into heavy coverage in the first half. He also took 4 sacks. It's possible Carr simply needs more time to adjust to his new offense and a young cast of pass catchers, but it hasn't been the cleanest start to his New Orleans tenure. Chris Olave catching 6 of 11 targets for 86 yards. Olave paced the Saints in targets, catches, and yards for the second week in a row. He now has 21 targets for the year. He could have had his first touchdown of the season had he not stepped out of bounds by a few inches on his way to the end zone in the fourth quarter. Olave earns targets close to the line of scrimmage, downfield, and everywhere in between. Strong weekly floor and elite single game upside. So for the Saints, a good portion of this game consisted of what was seen out of this offense in week 1, and that was productive plays to start drives before stalling out in the end zone. And the run game for New Orleans, there were some lows with Jamal Williams going down with an injury, some highs, Taysom Hill rushing for 75 yards, creating Taysom Hill as kind of like a fill-in running back is not sustainable. Tony Jones scored a couple of touchdowns. It looked rough for a moment, but the run game certainly came through when it mattered. However, I think we can all agree that Alvin Kamara's return is a boost that the Saints need. Will it help them win the division? Maybe, maybe not, but certainly having him back on the ground for the Saints can probably help this offense, and maybe it's what the offense, I would say it's what the offense needs. Defense continues to play well. Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young completed 22 of 33 passes for 153 yards and a touchdown, also adding a pair of rushes for 34 yards. Though the scoreboard says Carolina lost by a small margin, it wasn't a particular close game until almost the end. The Saints defense had prevent coverage on Carolina's final drive, which allowed Young to march down the field and find Adam Thielen for a touchdown. He also connected with Thielen for the 2-point conversion. A failed onside kick ended the Panthers' hope of a comeback. Young struggled to diagnose pressure and couldn't build any chemistry with receivers outside of Thielen. Speaking of Thielen, he caught 7 of 9 targets for 54 yards and a touchdown. Thielen was the only skill position player on the Panthers to get anything going. He didn't put any explosive plays on tape, but he served as a consistent outlet option for Young, who was constantly under pressure versus the Saints' impressive pass rush. With Jonathan Mingo and DJ Shark failing to create separation and earn targets, Thielen will continue to be Young's favorite target. So, for the Panthers in this game, Bryce Young falling short of expectations. Now, 2 games is too early to make any kind of definitive statement about a first-year player who's still trying to find his footing. Even so, he was picked number 1 overall for a reason. Granted, it is a long season, so there's still plenty of time for him to show out, or show out. So far, though, he has been a disappointment. Give credit to the Panthers defense, though. They kept it close. The offense unable to put up points for most of the game, but the Panthers defense kept things close, and for a majority of the contest, Carolina achieved that goal, getting pressure early on Carr to limit the passing game, but ultimately in the end, though, they would succumb to a couple of rushing touchdowns, and the Saints were able to put this game away. Next game, starting with the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson completed 22 of 40 passes for 235 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So Watson's night started off with a pick 6 on the first offensive play run from scrimmage, and it didn't get much better throughout the rest of the game. He lost a couple fumbles, one of which was a scoop and score, and was sacked 6 times while under unrelenting pressure. The performance was truly tragic considering how well Cleveland's defense played, holding the Pittsburgh offense to just 1 offensive touchdown and 2 field goals amidst consistent short fields. The Browns appeared destined for the first 2-0 start to the season since 1993, but ultimately fell short. Watson will need to regroup quickly, particularly considering the loss of all-world running back Nick Chubb, who suffered a significant knee injury and is out for the remainder of the season. Stepping in for Chubb in this game was Jerome Ford, who rushed 16 times for 106 yards, adding 25 yards and a touchdown on 3 receptions. Ford was thrust into the lead role after Chubb went down, and he did not disappoint with the opportunity, amassing 131 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown in the featured role. The highlight of his evening came on a 69-yard eruption down the sideline after it looked like he was going to be tackled behind the line of scrimmage, falling just short of the end zone. Pierre Strong would then take it from there and punch it in for an easy score. It remains to be seen how the Browns will choose to address the backfield with Chubb done for the season, but it appears to be in good hands if they choose to stand pat with Ford as the featured back. So Cleveland's offense is out of sync at the moment. Watson still isn't anywhere near the quarterback he once was in Houston, and as for Stefanski, the coach, well, there are a number of decisions that he makes that can be questioned, and for most of his tenure in Cleveland, that's kind of been a theme with him, that he's just making decisions that are head scratchers and he's seemingly out coaching himself. And now Nick Chubb is out for the season, so you're without Chubb, Watson's struggling. The Browns offense at this point isn't good enough to compete at a high level this season, which is tragic given how well their defense is playing. And as for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kenny Pickett completed 15 of 30 passes for 222 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The box score doesn't tell the whole story with Pickett, who led just 3 scoring drives consisting of a 71-yard touchdown to George Pickens on a slant and 2 field goals. The Pittsburgh defense won this one for the Steelers, generating 4 turnovers and scoring 2 touchdowns. Either way, the preseason surge from this offense continues to not transfer over into the regular season, as Pickett and Matt Canada's offense looks unresponsive for the second consecutive week. George Pickens catching 4 of 10 targets for 127 yards and a touchdown. So Pickens highlighted his big playability on that 71-yard touchdown. The poor efficiency in catching just 4 of 10 targets can be mostly explained through ineffective play from his quarterback, more so than being a nod to mistakes on the part of Pickens. There were also a couple near misses down the sidelines that Pickens was unable to corral in bounds that would have further added to his, well, not only his catch total, but his yardage total. Bottom line for the Steelers, they don't win this game without their defense, which first 4 turnovers, their offense just did not do enough to win this game. However, there's only so much this defense can do to offset the woes on offense. And when you look a little bit further at Pittsburgh's offense, it is a bit of a mess. Pickett is struggling to get comfortable, still struggling to get comfortable and establish much of a rhythm. The offensive line isn't doing him any favors, nor is Pittsburgh insistent on giving lead back carries to Najee Harris, who was outplayed by Jalen Warren in this game, and Warren might be the better runner for this offense. To play with the league's best, the Steelers need an offense that's capable of regularly moving the ball, and it looks like Warren is better at moving the ball than Harris is. And on defense, TJ Watt can only do so much for his team. So yeah, I think maybe make Warren an RB1 and Harris RB2. And I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of talk about changing coordinators for the Steelers. Maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't. I guess we'll see what the Steelers do. But they got a good defense, but not a good offense, as I talked about too. That was the theme of both of these games. Bad offenses, good defenses. And with that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.